Marcus Wright, a 42-year-old CEO of Apex Innovations, stood on the verge of a historic milestone. His company, a powerhouse in renewable energy solutions, was mere hours from finalizing a $4.3 billion deal with Horizon Global, a European conglomerate that would transform clean energy distribution across 3 continents. For Marcus, this deal was more than a business transaction. It was the culmination of his journey as a black entrepreneur who had clawed his way from humble beginnings to lead a global empire. But on July 15, 2025, at JFK International Airport, a single encounter threatened to dismantle everything he had worked for. Marcus adjusted his tailored navy suit as he approached the first-class check-in counter, his stride confident yet measured. His team crew, Sarah Nugent, a sharp-witted strategist, and legal advisor David Carter, a calm but meticulous lawyer, followed closely, their briefcases packed with contracts ready for the pivotal signing in London. At 6'2", broad-shouldered with dreadlocks neatly pulled back, Marcus carried an air of authority shaped by years of navigating boardrooms where he was often the only black man present. His eyes, though, held a quiet weight, reflecting the battles he'd fought to earn his place. The check-in agent, a middle-aged woman with a tight bun and a name tag reading Karen, looked up from her computer, her lips pursed as she scanned Marcus from head to toe, her expression a mix of skepticism and indifference. "ID and ticket," she said, her voice flat and clipped, barely masking a hint of irritation. Marcus slid his passport in boarding pass across the counter with a polite nod. "Here you go." Karen picked up the passport, flipped it open, and squinted at the photo, her brow furrowing as if she'd uncovered a discrepancy. "This you?" she asked, holding it up like a detective, examining evidence at a crime scene. Marcus raised an eyebrow, his patience thinning but his tone still even. "Yeah, that's me." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing further, as if trying to reconcile the man in front of her with the image in her hand. "Doesn't look like you. You're sure this is yours?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice sharp, but professional, cutting through the tension. "It's his passport. We're on a tight schedule here, so can we move this along?" Karen ignored her, flipping the passport back and forth, her fingers lingering on the pages. "I'm just doing my job," she said, her tone defensive. "Things don't add up. I gotta check." Without warning, she tossed the passport onto the counter with a careless flick of her wrist. It slid off the edge and hit the floor with a soft thud, landing face up on the scuffed tile. Marcus froze. The terminal was alive with the chaos of travel announcements blaring. Travelers rushing, wheels of suitcases clattering, but the sound of his passport hitting the ground cut through it all, echoing in his ears. He looked down at it, his name and photos staring back, a symbol of his identity discarded like trash. "Pick it up," Marcus said, his voice low, a dangerous edge simmering beneath the surface. Karen crossed her arms, her face reddening. "Excuse me, pick it up." His words were sharp, deliberate, slicing through the hum of the airport like a knife. The agent's eyes widened, but she held her ground, her lips curling into a defiant smirk. "I don't take orders from you. You want your ID? Get it yourself." David leaned in, his voice urgent but hushed, sensing the situation spiraling. "Marcus, we don't have time for this. The flight's boarding in 20 minutes. We need to go." But Marcus didn't budge, his eyes locked on Karen's, unyielding. "You threw my ID on the floor. You're gonna pick it up." A small crowd began to form, travelers slowing their pace, their curiosity piqued by the rising tension. Karen's smirk deepened, her confidence bolstered by the attention. "You think you're somebody special? I've seen 100 guys like you. Step aside, or I'm calling security." Sarah grabbed Marcus's arm, her grip firm. "Let's just go, Marcus. She's not worth it. We've got a deal to close." Marcus shook her off, his voice rising, raw with indignation. "Not worth it. My name's on that passport. My life's work is in that deal we're flying to sign. And this woman thinks she can disrespect me because what? Because I'm black? Because I don't fit her idea of a CEO." Karen scoffed, loud enough for the growing crowd to hear, her tone dripping with disdain. "Oh, here we go. Pull the race card. Typical." The words hit like a slap, igniting a fire in Marcus's chest. His jaw clenched, his fists tightening at his sides. "Say that again." Karen leaned forward, her voice venomous, unafraid of the eyes on her. "I said, typical. You people always make it about race. You people." Marcus's voice boomed, now echoing through the terminal, drawing gasps from the crowd. "Who's you people? Say it clear." "Karen, go on. Tell me who I am." The crowd murmured, some whispering to each other, others pulling out their phones to record. A man in a business suit muttered to his companion, "This is getting heated." A woman nearby gasped, her camera already rolling. Karen's face flushed deeper, but she doubled down, her voice rising to match his. "I'm not racist. I'm just doing my job. You're holding up the line, acting like you own the place, acting like I own the place." Marcus laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that silenced the murmurs. "I built a company from the ground up. I employ thousands. I'm about to close a deal that'll change the world. And you think you can throw my ID on the floor like I'm nothing?" David tugged at Marcus's sleeve, his voice more desperate now. "Marcus, we're gonna miss the flight. Horizon's waiting. We can't afford this." But Marcus was locked in, his eyes burning into Karen's. Nah, David, she doesn't get to do this and walk away. Pick it up, Karen. Now, Karen's smirk faltered, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the phone on her desk. I'm calling security. You're done here. Sarah stepped between them, her voice a whip crack of authority. Enough. You, she pointed at Karen, her eyes blazing, are out of line. And you, she turned to Marcus, her tone softening but firm. We need you in London, not in a shouting match. Before Marcus could respond, two security guards approached, their radios crackling, their faces stern. The taller one, a burly man with a buzz cut, spoke first. What's the problem here? Karen pointed at Marcus, her voice shrill. He's being aggressive, refusing to comply. I asked for his ID, and he's causing a scene. Marcus's eyes widened, his voice rising with disbelief. Aggressive. She threw my passport on the floor and called me you people. You want to talk about causing a scene? The younger guard, nervous, glanced between Marcus and Karen, his hand hovering near his radio. Let's all calm down, sir. Can you explain what happened? Marcus pointed at the passport still lying on the floor. She threw my ID down there because she doesn't think I look like a CEO. That's what happened. The older guard frowned, turning to Karen. Is that true? Karen's voice cracked, her confidence wavering under the scrutiny. I was doing my job. His passport looked suspicious and he got hostile. Hostile, Marcus snapped, his voice cutting through her. Excuse, you disrespected me in front of everyone. You think I don't belong here. Say it. Say what you're thinking. The crowd grew thicker, their murmurs turning to shouts. A woman yelled, that's disgusting. A man in a suit called out, she's out of line. Phones were everywhere, now capturing every word, every gesture. The younger guard bent down, picked up the passport and dusted it off before handing it to Marcus. Here, sir, let's de-escalate this. Marcus took the passport, his hand trembling with barely contained rage. De-escalate. She humiliated me. You think this is okay? The older guard turned to Karen, his tone firm. Did you throw his ID? Karen hesitated, her eyes darting to the crowd, then back to the guard. It slipped. Not my fault. Slipped. Marcus's voice was a growl, his patience gone. He tossed it like trash. Sarah grabbed his arm again, her voice urgent. Marcus, we're late. The plane's boarding. We can deal with this later. But Marcus's eyes stayed on Karen. You threw my identity on the floor. You disrespected me in front of the world. And you're standing here lying about it. The older guard sighed, stepping between them. Sir, I understand you're upset. We'll handle this, but you need to step back. Marcus shook him off, his voice thunderous. Handle it. How? She gets a slap on the wrist while my deal's on the line. The younger guard raised his hands, trying to calm the crowd. Everyone, please, let's keep this civil. Civil. Marcus's laugh was bitter, his eyes blazing. This isn't about civility. This is about respect. I've earned my place here, and she thinks she can treat me like garbage. Kirk's face paled, her bravado crumbling under the weight of the crowd's judgment. I didn't mean anything by it. You're twisting my words. Twisting. Marcus stepped closer, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. You showed who you are. Don't backtrack now. The older guard put a hand on Marcus's shoulder, his tone firm but calm. Sir, we'll take it from here, ma'am. You're coming with us? Karen's eyes widened, her voice shrill. Me, I didn't do anything wrong. The crowd erupted, some shouting support for Marcus, others jeering at Karen. A woman screamed, fire her. A man yelled, this is why people hate airports. Marcus's chest heaved, his eyes locked on Karen as the guards led her away. Sarah pulled him toward the gate. Marcus, we've got to go now. But it was too late. The final boarding call for their flight echoed through the terminal. Marcus's eyes flicked to the gate, then back to the spot where Karen had stood. This isn't over, he said, his voice a promise. In the airport lounge, Marcus sat with his head in his hands, the weight of the moment sinking in. Sarah paced, her phone pressed to her ear, frantically trying to reach Horizon Global's team. David scrolled through his tablet, his face grim as he read the early news reports already spreading online. This is bad, he muttered. The video's gone viral. X is blowing up. Marcus looked up, his expression hard. What are they saying? David hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Some are calling it a hate crime, others say you overreacted. Overreacted. Marcus's voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet of the lounge. She threw my ID on the floor. David, she called me you people. Sarah hung up, her face tight with worry. Horizon's pissed. They're saying you embarrassed them by missing the flight. They're reconsidering the deal. Marcus stood, his fists clenched, his voice rising, with frustration. Reconsidering after all we've done. This is on her, not me. I know, Sarah said, her tone steady but urgent. But the optics are bad. The media's spinning it. Some are painting you as the aggressor. Marcus's laugh was bitter, his eyes blazing with defiance. Aggressor. I'm the victim here. David nodded, his voice calm but resolute. We need to get ahead of this. Issue a statement. Explain what happened. Sarah shook her head, her mind already racing ahead. No, a statement's too weak. We need to go public at press conference. Now, Marcus's eyes narrowed, considering her words. You think that'll work? It's our only shot, Sarah said, her voice firm. We tell your story, the truth, before the narrative gets hijacked. Within hours, Marcus stood at a podium in a packed press room, cameras flashing, microphones shoved in his face. His voice was steady but fierce, each word carrying the weight of his anger. Today, I was disrespected. My identity, my name, my work was thrown on the floor by an airport employee who judged me based on my skin. She called me you people. She humiliated me in front of a crowd. And because of her actions, I missed a flight that could cost my company a $4.3 billion deal. The room buzzed with murmurs, reporters scribbling notes. A journalist shouted, Mr. Wright, did you escalate the situation? Marcus's eyes blazed, his voice cutting through the noise. Escalate? I demanded respect. That's not escalation. That's standing up for myself. Another reporter jumped in, her tone skeptical. Was race the only factor, or was this a misunderstanding? Marcus leaned forward, his voice unwavering. A misunderstanding doesn't throw a passport on the floor. A misunderstanding doesn't sneer you people. This was prejudice, plain and simple. Sarah stepped up beside him, her voice sharp and commanding. Apex Innovations is investigating legal action against the airline and the employee. We won't let this stand. The questions kept coming, some supportive, others probing, but Marcus held his ground, his words raw and unapologetic. By the end, the room was divided. Some reporters clapped, others whispered doubts, but Marcus's story was out there, unfiltered and undeniable. The next morning, Marcus's phone buzzed with a call from Horizon's CEO Elena Voss. Her voice was cold-clipped. Marcus, we need to talk. I'm listening, Marcus replied, bracing himself for the worst. Your absence yesterday was unacceptable. Our board is questioning your reliability. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone, his voice rising with disbelief. Reliability. I was disrespected, humiliated, and delayed because of an employee's prejudice. That's not on me. Elena paused, her tone softening slightly. I saw the video. I understand your position. But business is business. The board wants assurances. Assurances. Marcus's voice was sharp, his anger barely contained. I've spent years building this deal. My company's tech is flawless. You know that. I do, Elena said, her voice measured. But perception matters. The media's painting you as volatile. We can't afford that risk. Marcus's heart pounded, his voice rising with frustration. Volatile. You think I'm the problem here? Not the woman who threw my ID on the floor. I'm not saying I agree, Elena said, her tone diplomatic but firm. I'm saying the board's nervous. Fix the narrative, Marcus, or the deal's off. Marcus and his team huddled in a New York hotel suite, strategizing their next move. Sarah slammed her laptop shut, her eyes blazing with determination. We're fighting back. I've got a PR team drafting a campaign of PED's interviews. The works. We're telling your story, Marcus. David nodded, his voice calm but resolute. We've got lawyers looking at defamation and discrimination claims that Agent's done. Marcus stared out the window, his jaw tight, his mind racing. This isn't just about her. It's about a system that lets this happen. Sarah's voice softened, but her resolve was unshaken. We know that's why we're going big. You're not just fighting for you, you're fighting for everyone who's been through this. Marcus turned, his eyes fierce with purpose. Then let's do it right. Over the next week, Apex's PR campaign exploded across media platforms. Marcus's interviews aired on major networks, his story unfiltered and raw. I'm a black man who built $1 billion company, he told one anchor, his voice steady but powerful. But to some, I'm still not enough. That's what happened at JFK. That's what we're up against. The public response was electric. Protests erupted outside the airline's headquarters, with crowds chanting for justice and demanding Karen's termination. Social media lit up with hashtags like #JusticeForMarcus and #EndAirportBias, trending globally within hours. Poured in from activists, celebrities, and everyday people who saw their own experiences in Marcus's story. But there were detractors, two commentators who called him divisive, accusing him of turning a minor incident into a spectacle. Karen, meanwhile, became a lightning rod for outrage. The airline suspended her pending an investigation, but the damage was done. Leaked footage from other passengers showed her sneering at Marcus, fueling calls for accountability. Apex's legal team filed a lawsuit against the airline, alleging discrimination and defamation, while Marcus's PR campaign kept the pressure on. Horizon Global, however, remained silent, their boardroom deliberations shrouded in secrecy. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly with updates from her contacts, but the news wasn't good. They're wavering, she told Marcus one evening, her voice tense. The board split. Some want to move forward, but others think the publicity's too risky. Marcus's jaw tightened, his voice low but resolute. Risky. They're the ones risking a game-changing deal over a narrative they don't control. David looked up from his laptop, his expression grim. We need to shift the focus. Show them the deal's worth it, despite the noise. Sarah nodded, her mind already working. We'll invite Elena Voss to New York, a face-to-face meeting. Marcus, you'll pitch the deal again, remind them why Apex is the only choice. Marcus's eyes narrowed, his voice steady. And if they still hesitate, then we go harder, Sarah said, her tone fierce. We leak the deal's details to the press, show the world what they're walking away from. A week later, Marcus sat across from Elena Voss in a sleek New York conference room. The city skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Elena's face was unreadable, her posture rigid. You've made a lot of noise, Marcus, she said, her voice cool but not hostile. Marcus leaned back, his eyes locked on hers. I told the truth, the world's listening. An executive to Elena's left, a stern man named Richard, scoffed. You've turned this into a circus. We can't work with that kind of instability. Marcus's voice was steel, his words measured but cutting. A circus. A woman disrespected me, cost me this deal, and you're blaming me. That's the circus. Elena raised a hand, silencing Richard. Enough. We've reviewed the evidence. The agent's been terminated. The airline's facing an investigation. Marcus's eyes narrowed, his voice unwavering. And the deal? Elena sighed, her expression softening slightly. The board split. Your campaign's strong, but some think you're a liability. A liability. Marcus stood, his voice booming through the room. I'm the one who built the tech. I'm the one who showed up despite everything. You want to talk liability? Look at your own hesitance. The room fell silent, the tension thick. Elena's eyes met Marcus's, a flicker of respect in her gaze. You're right, we're moving forward with the deal. But we need assurances, discretion, stability. Marcus nodded, his voice firm but calm. You'll get it. But I won't stay quiet about what happened. The deal was signed the next day, a $4.3 billion agreement that made headlines around the world. Marcus's campaign continued, sparking national conversations about race, respect, and systemic bias. The airline settled Apex's lawsuit out of court, issuing a public apology and implementing mandatory bias training for all employees. Karen faced her own legal battles, her name synonymous with the incident. Marcus returned to New York, his reputation cemented as both a business titan and a voice for change. In his office, he stood at the window, looking out at the city. Sarah approached, a rare smile on her face. You did it, Marcus. He shook his head, his voice quiet but resolute. We did it, but it's not over. And it wasn't. Marcus's fight had ignited a movement, and he was just getting started. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Marcus became a reluctant icon, his face plastered on magazine covers, his name invoked in debates about race and power. Apex Innovation saw a surge in support, with new investors clamoring to back Marcus's vision. But the toll was heavy. Late nights in the office, he confided in Sarah and David about the weight of being a symbol. I just wanted to close the deal, he said one evening, his voice tired, not carry the world. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft but firm. You're carrying what matters. People see themselves in you. David nodded, his tone pragmatic. And the deal's done. Apex is stronger than ever. You turned a disaster into a win. Marcus's eyes flickered with resolve. Not yet. There's more to do. He launched a foundation to support Black entrepreneurs, funneling millions into mentorship and funding programs. He spoke at universities, sharing his story with students who saw him as proof that they, too, could rise. And he never stopped calling out the systems that had tried to diminish him. From the airport to the boardroom, that the incident at JFK became a turning point. Not just for Marcus, but for the countless others who saw their own struggles in his fight. His legacy grew, not just as a CEO, but as a man who refused to let his identity be thrown on the floor.